It's about this time of year that I turn my attention towards predators, and in particular perch, which must rate as one of my most favourite species of fish. And in recent years there's been no better place to target big perch than commercial carp fisheries, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, perch, like most predators, thrive on neglect, and the typical tactics been employed on these fisheries will generally leave them largely unmolested. And secondly, the almost blanket use these days of high protein baits, which, whether you're talking about ground baits or pellets or boilies, and as they break down in the lake, so the silverfish can eat them, and this provides perch with an easy source of protein-packed bite-sized morsels, so they grow very quickly. But of course, an occupational hazard of fishing a commercial carp fishery is that you are going to inevitably run into commercial carp, and so that proved to be the case within a few minutes of starting on this particular day. But at this particular fishery, they're lovely clean fish, so it's not all bad catching them, and it's nice to get a bend in the rod, get a fish under the belt, and then turn your attention to the business at hand. Now, I was fishing flowfish prawn over sprayed maggots, which is a universally successful method and very simple. But I also unusually was fishing with a second rod where I had lobworms on a light running ledger, just down tight in the margin. Wouldn't normally fish with two rods, but I was focused on fishing one swim, so it seemed prudent to have a go. But despite my best efforts, the bobbin never really got moving. However, back on the float front, I'd managed to find a good depth of water, just a couple of foot off the bank, and it seemed that there were a good few fish in residence. But this second fish soon became clear that that wasn't the perch I was after either, and was indeed another carp, a little bit smaller than the first, or significantly smaller than the first, but a bit of fun. So I baited up with maggots once again, and this time I brought the hook bait up in the water to try and get above the carp. I instantly started getting smashed to pieces by 3 and 4 inch roach that were pretty hell-bent on engulfing a size 6 hook, or at least stripping the bait off. So I made the fatal error of actually moving the float up so I could fish back down on the bottom, and it proved to be rather a costly mistake. Because not long after I hooked the fish and I caught a glimpse of it, and it looked to be one of the better ones in the lake, and certainly the way it went off suggested it was. But after taking a lot of line, it then plunged into the near side margin and came back along through all the reeds and the lilies, and the inevitable tug of war took place. And despite fishing with 6 pounds straight through to take into account the presence of carp, it was a battle I wasn't going to win. Wasn't too fussed about losing the carp. The fish with barbless hooks, so the hook should fall out quite easily, but the float that I lost with it I've had for about 15 years. I made about 15 years ago. And the bubbles suggested that the carp were pretty well installed in residence, so I thought I'd exact my revenge upon them. And the next fish I hooked very kindly did what I hoped and went out into open water, and in fact kept going and going out into open water, and very nearly ended up in the far margin. And this is, generally speaking, when I'm perch fishing, if I do hook a carp, this is what I try and do, is let them run out into open water, and then wherever possible I'll actually move along 2 or 3 swims and land them from further down the lake, so they don't disturb the margin spots too much. But on this occasion I'd trees either side of me or saplings either side of me, making it difficult to get along the bank, so I was committed to having to land them from the swim from which I was fishing. But I never know whether that really affects the perch fishing or not. Certainly wasn't helping it. But it wasn't hurting the carp fishing, because I couldn't get away from the blooming things. And after a little tussle with the lily pads, I needed to employ a bit of side strain. This one too succumbed to the net. Oh, it's a very nice looking mirror carp. And I think it's always important to try and find a positive in any fishing trip. The only positive I could find was, as a perch angler, I'm bloody good at catching carp. But I'll try again.